Welcome back, dear students, for today's session. In this session, we are going to discuss about the muscle tissue. So here, firstly, let me tell you that muscle tissue is composed of long cells. Okay, these long cells are called muscle fibers, or we can also refer it to as myocytes. Okay, see, these muscle fibers or the myocytes are capable of contracting. They have ability of contraction. Okay, and this contraction will be brought about by nerve signals. When there are signals through nerves, these muscle fibers will contract. All right, let me repeat. See, muscle tissues are composed of long cells called as muscle fibers or myocytes. Okay, so which perform the role of contraction through nerve signals. Furthermore, dear students, let me tell you that the muscle tissue is mesodermal in origin. What do we mean by this? Already we know that mesodermal is the primary germ layer. Okay, so from this primary germ layer, which is the middle primary germ layer, from this the muscle tissue is formed. And further, in mammals, if you consider, 40% of the body weight, right, is through this muscle tissue, dear students. Okay, so these are few introductory aspects which you need to consider before moving on to the actual concept of the muscle tissues. Okay, now let me tell you that when we consider the general structure of muscle tissues, they are made up of, as I said you, long and narrow cells. When I say narrow cells, right, they have very less space between them. Okay, so these cells, already I have told you, they are called as muscle fibers or myocytes. Okay, the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber is called as sarcoplasm. All right, see, the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber is called as sarcoplasm. And further, the plasma membrane of muscle fiber is referred to as sarcolemma. All right, so this sarcoplasm, that is the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber, has many mitochondria. These are together, all the mitochondria together are called sarcosomes. Right, let me repeat. See, sarcolemma is the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber, and we call sarcoplasm is the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber, whereas all the mitochondria which are present in the muscle fiber are referred to as sarcosomes. Further, students, see here, the sarcoplasmic reticulum is the endoplasmic reticulum of muscle fiber. All right, remember this is very important point. Again, the muscle fibers are having high reserves of glycogen is stored, all right, in very high amounts in the muscle fibers, which is necessary for providing energy, all right, for contraction of muscles to occur. Okay, glycogen provides energy by oxidation of glucose molecules. Further, moving on to the other aspects about the general structure, see, the sarcoplasm has fine, all right, longitudinal and contractile proteinaceous threads, all right, called as myofibrils. They have myofibrils in them, all right. Let me repeat, they are longitudinal, dear students. Okay, they are long. Okay, contractile, which help in the process of contraction, and they are nothing but proteins. So they are present in the sarcoplasm, that is the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber. Okay, and further, let me tell you that the smaller units, all right, called actin and myosin as well are present, all right. These are called as the contractile proteins. Okay, as well, tropomyosin and troponin, and troponin, all these are contractile proteins which help in the process of contraction of muscles. Okay, remember, the first is the actin, then we have the myosin, followed by tropomyosin and troponin. These are contractile proteins. Further, see, when we consider each muscle fiber, they may have either one nuclei or they may possess more than one nuclei as well, So these nuclei are very clearly visible, all right. Then, dear students, see, these muscle fibers, they don't have power of division, they don't divide. Okay, we don't see the power of division here. Okay, furthermore, regeneration, once these bones are damaged, again regeneration of these the tissues, rather, regeneration of tissues will not occur. So these are few important aspects you need to consider with respect to their general structures. Now next, let us move on discussing about the properties of muscle tissue. See, first property, most important property we are going to discuss now is irritability. The first property is irritability. What do we mean by irritability? Here, it is the response of the cell, okay, that is the muscle cell or muscle fiber, to the stimuli, right? This is called irritability. The second property we have is conductivity. These are the properties of muscle fiber or muscle cells. Conductivity is the second property. So what do we mean by this? Again, see, it is the ability to transmit, all right, it is the ability to transmit the excitation from one cell to the other cell. Are you getting my point? That is very important. So transmitting the excitation, all right. Whatever the messages these cells receive will be passed on to the other cells, all right, other fibers. So that property is called as conductivity. Then further, they also have elasticity. Third property is elasticity. See elasticity means here these muscle fibers are having the ability of stretching, all right. So they can be stretched, all right. See and after stretching, they can come back to the normal stage. This is what we call it as elasticity. See, first we all know that muscle fibers help us to stretch, all right. And when they are stretched, these muscle fibers, they are highly elastic, and again they can come back to normal, right. So this elasticity can also be seen. And furthermore, one more property which we can find is extensibility. Here extensibility, the fourth important property of the muscle fibers. Here what we can find is these muscle fibers can be stretched beyond their normal length. That is what we call extensibility, dear students. Okay, so these are the four important properties. Let me say: irritability, conductibility, elasticity and extensibility, which you need to remember, dear students. Now let us go with the types of muscle tissue. We have the types of muscle tissue as the next concept. So here when we consider, all right, we are taking into consideration three aspects. One is location, where in which part of the body these muscle fibers are located or present. That is one condition to divide or to classify these muscle fibers. Secondly, structure is also considered, all right, their structure and also the functions which they perform. Let me repeat: based on the location, structure and the functions of muscle tissues, they can be classified into three types. The first is called as striated, all right, muscle, or it can also be called to as striped, all right, striated or striped muscle, or even we can also say it as skeletal muscle. So this is the first type, all right. See, we can say either as striated or striped or skeletal muscle. Second type we have is non-striated. So the word itself is suggesting us that they don't have any stripes or striations, hence they can also be called to as unstriped muscles, or they are generally also referred to as smooth muscles, all right. This is the second type, dear students. Okay, then third type we have here is cardiac muscle, all right. These cardiac muscles are present in the heart. Okay, so let me repeat: striated muscles, non-striated muscles and cardiac muscles are the three types of muscular tissue based on location, structure and function. Dear students, so let us move with the first type of muscle tissue, that is the striated muscle. So when we are considering the striated muscle, we know that they have striations or stripes in them. See the rough structure of striated muscle cell I am drawing here. Okay, they have many dark striations like this in them, all right. These are the dark striations which can be seen with respect to these cells. All right. And you know, the light striations can also be present. Okay, so these are dark striations. All right, and these are the light striations. And to go with that, we can find the nucleus. Fine. So there will be myofibrils. I told you they are made up of actin and myosin. These myofibrils are also present, okay, in these muscle cells. Okay. So let me tell you first, dark striations, light striations. We have the nucleus. Okay. To go with that, even myofibrils are also present. So these are the myofibrils. And all this what we can find here. See, this is all. Let me tell you now, what we can observe here is full complete the sarcoplasm it is. Alright, sarcoplasm. Remember that. That means the cytoplasm has the nucleus, dark striations, alright, light striations, myofibrils, all this. Fine. So this is the structure of striated muscle cell. All right. See, dear students, let me tell you where exactly we can find this. Okay, this is attached to the bones of head. All right, trunk, and also the limbs of our body. All right, we can find these muscles in these three regions. All right, as you know, they are present in these regions. Because of this, they are also called as skeletal muscles. They are referred to as skeletal muscles. Apart from this, they can also be present in the tongue, all right, pharynx, the common passage for food and air, that is the pharynx and tongue. Okay, an important a linguistic organ. All right, and also important in digestion, the tongue. Then pharynx, even in the beginning of esophagus. All right, in the beginning we can find. All right, so these are what I can say, the locations where we can find the striated muscles, dear students. Further, let us understand now few more important aspects about their structure. As I said to you, these muscle cells are also called as muscle fibers, right? So the previous structure what we discussed is a muscle cell or muscle fiber. So which is approximately 40 millimeter in length. They are very long, okay, and 10 to 100 micrometer in their diameter. So this is about their length and diameter. And further, let me tell you, these have alternate dark and light striations which I have shown you. Okay, because of that they are also called as striped muscles. We can also refer them to as striped muscles. These muscles, dear students, undergo fatigue easily. Now, when we use our muscles of head, trunk or limbs, it is obvious that we are going to become fatigue. All right, those muscles rather. So they have stress and strain. All right, that's what we generally represent it with, the fatigue. Very easily they can undergo fatigue, and they are supplied with blood. Okay, they are highly vascular. They are vascular. Okay, then these muscles are voluntary muscles. These muscles or muscle tissues are voluntary in nature. Voluntary means to say they are under our control. They are under the control of the will and wish of a particular individual. That's why we call them to as voluntary muscles. Alright, here mitochondria is present and as well as glycogen is present, okay, which help in providing the energy for the muscle contraction. These two, remember, mitochondria releases ATP, so through ATP the energy for contraction is provided, and also through the glycogen the energy for the contraction of muscles is provided, dear students. Okay, so these are few important aspects you need to remember with respect to the first type of muscular tissue, that is the striated muscle. So dear students, the second type of the muscular tissue we have is non-striated muscle tissues or non-striated muscles. Okay, so here firstly let me tell you, the word non-striated here refers to the absence of striations or stripes. See, we found the alternate light and dark bands in the previous striped muscles, but that is absent here. Okay, so striations and stripes are completely absent here. That's why the name non-striated muscle. Now let us understand the structure of these non-striated muscles. So they generally spindle shaped. Okay, all right, they have a very prominent nucleus. This is the prominent nucleus, it is present, and they have the myofibrils. They don't have striations, but the myofibrils, which are made up of actin and myosin, which is necessary for muscular contraction, these myofibrils are present. Okay, this is the nucleus. All right, and I have already told you that the plasma membrane of the muscle fibers is called as sarcolemma. So this is the sarcolemma of the non-striated muscle, and the cytoplasm is called as sarcoplasm. All right, so remember, this is the structure which you need to remember of the non-striated muscle. Now further let me tell you that these non-striated muscles are located in the visceral organs, internal organs. Okay, so like for example, we have alimentary canal. All right, here we can find this type of muscles. Even in the genital, that is the reproductive parts, as well as genital ducts, rather we can say, as well as in the urinary ducts, we can find this. To go with that, even in the blood vessels we can find this type of muscles. All right, so these are some of the important locations where we can find, that is, we can find them in the alimentary canal, that means in their walls. All these can be present in the walls of alimentary canal, walls of genital ducts and urinary ducts, to go with the walls of blood vessels. Okay, few more regions maybe, like for example, not so prominently, but they are present in the dermis of skin. Okay, the layer, layer of the outer layer of skin, as well as iris of eye. Okay, and all right, in many other regions. So these are few locations of non-striated muscles or unstriped muscles in our body. So I have already told you that these muscles lack the striations, that you can remember, and these muscle fibers are around 0.02 to 0.05 millimeter in length. It is their length. All right, and 5 to 10 micrometer is their diameter, which is very, very less, comparatively very less when compared with the striped muscles. All right, They are very shorter than compared to the first type of muscle tissues we studied, that is the striated muscles. Alright. Students, furthermore, here also we call, as I said you, plasma membrane as the sarcolemma and the cytoplasm as sarcoplasm. They also have a nucleus which we have represented at the center, it is placed, which I have shown in the diagram. They possess, alright, the ATP through mitochondria, so which is important for contraction of these muscles. Okay, remember this point as well. See, these are the ones to go with that. These muscles are involuntary. When I say involuntary, please remember that they are not under the control of will and wish of a person. We cannot control these muscles as we could control the muscles of our limbs or muscles of our trunk or head. We can control, for example, tongue we can control, but not these involuntary muscles. Okay, that's why they are referred to as to be not under the control of the particular person. Because of that, they are involuntary. And further, dear students, their contraction relaxation is their contraction as well as relaxation is very slow, but it was not the case with the striped muscles. It was very rapidly we can move our hands because of the presence of striped muscles. But in these unstriped muscles, the contraction and relaxation of muscles is very slow, dear students. And students, the third type of muscle tissues we have is cardiac muscles, right? So let me first and foremost tell you that these cardiac muscles are found in the myocardium of heart. Alright. See, myocardium is the middle wall layer of heart. It is the middle wall layer, alright, or middle layer in the walls of heart. So there we can see the presence of these cardiac muscles. Moving to their structure, okay, they are branch structures, alright. Their structures look as such. As I am referring it to muscles, alright, so many cells can be present in these tissues or muscles, alright, as you can observe here. And more importantly, they have these light and dark striations running between them. This is the dark striation which I am just representing here, and in between light striations also you can find. Okay, so this is the nucleus. Fine. And let me tell you that these cardiac muscle fibers measure approximately around 15 micrometer in their diameter, alright, 15 micrometer in their diameter. And between the cells, as you can observe here, there are intercalated discs. See, this one cell separated by intercalated disc. This is one cell separated by intercalated disc. This is intercalated disc separated by separating the cells, alright. So intercalated discs we say, see, intercalated discs which are represented there, alright. So that means to say these are modified plasma membranes or sarcolemma. They are modified sarcolemma, alright, of the cardiac muscles. Remember this point, dear students. Okay, and further let me tell you that these muscle fibers are generally uninucleate, correct? See, the interconnected discs are present between the cells, so which make the cells, all right, having single cell. The nucleus is large and oval, which we observed, and they do possess the light and dark striations. Okay, they are also type of striated muscles only. And more importantly, the point you need to remember here is that these muscles, all right, are involuntary. That means to say that they are not under our control. They are not under the control of or will and wish of individual, all right. So that's also one important point. So further, dear students, now they undergo contraction and relaxation with the help of, see, when we consider the structure of heart, a rough structure I am drawing here. Okay, so just to represent, see, when we consider the structure of heart, all right, here you can find the sinoatrial node. What do we say? SAN, SAN, all right, sinoatrial node. Then further there are other structures as well. Okay, this is one chamber, this is one, and this is the another one. 4 chambers are there. So this is the chamber called auricle, that is the right auricle. In the right auricle, right, we have the sinoatrial node, which is called as pacemaker. It helps in contraction of heart. Remember that dear students. Okay, so further, so this muscle tissue, is rather, when we consider, they are not having much of endoplasmic reticulum. That is what we here represent it to as sarcoplasmic reticulum is very poor or very low here. The same goes with respect to the mitochondria as well. Mitochondria are also very low in number. Fine. And these muscles do not undergo fatigue easily, all right. They do not feel much of stress and strain. Continuous throughout the life they keep working. That's why I am representing with what? They do not undergo what? Fatigue. They do not undergo this process called fatigue, all right. Remember this point, dear students. Okay, so this is about the cardiac muscle. Let us discuss few general functions of the muscle tissues. Okay, the first important function, as we all know, that muscles support the bones, all right. They support the bones. So when they support the bones, all right, so it is possible for the organism to have movement and locomotion. Movement of the body parts and locomotion, change of place of an organism is also possible, all right. So for that, muscles are also important, dear students, not only the bones, right. See, say for example, we have in our hands, all right, in our hands, arms, legs and so on. So there we have the movement of them because of the attachment of these muscles to the bones. Remember this point. Okay, then other functions, if we consider, see, they are responsible for the passage of food through the alimentary canal, all right. Through what? Alimentary canal. Because of the muscular movement, the food we call peristalsis. So through this muscular movement, the food moves from the, all right, esophagus to the stomach, and that's the important process, all right. That's what we call passage of food. These muscles help us in this process. And also, dear students, the blood and the lymph, which are the important body fluids, their movement also inside the vessels, the blood vessels, that is arteries, veins and capillaries, and lymphatic vessels, all right, the muscles will help for their movement. Okay, further, for pumping of heart, right, to transport the oxygen, right, to different parts of the body, and also to bring about the eliminated carbon dioxide by the cells. To carry that, right, the functioning of heart is necessary, which is brought about by the muscle tissues. And also for, you know, secretions, to have secretions in our body, the muscular contractions are necessary, dear students. Okay, now let me also tell you a few more. See, just let me tell you that they help in ingestion, intake of food, for example, egestion, all right, removal of the waste, all right, then they help in urination. Further, the muscles help in mating, right? They also help in egg laying, correct? They help in delivery of the baby, called as parturition. This is also their important function. So to feed their young ones, all right, feeding the young ones as well, muscles are important. All right, dear students, see, and also further let me tell you, the muscles are also important for moving sense organs. Like, for example, we have sense organs like eyes, nose, or let us say etc. Okay, so eyes and nose, all right, the movement can be brought about by the muscles. So these are very important, dear students, and also they help in facial gesture. Okay, different reactions the person gives to different situations, right? So they help in facial gestures as well, dear students. Okay, the last type of the tissues, you know, we have are nervous tissue. Okay, they are very important as well. Okay, so they are very specialized to perform two functions, dear students, most important, that is excitability, and the second function is conductivity. All right, first is excitability, so, and the second one is conductivity. Let me tell you what these two functions are. That means, see, these nervous tissues cells, nervous, you know, what we call the neurons, right? They have the ability to receive the stimuli. Okay, they receive the stimuli, all right, both internal inside the body as well as from the environment. After receiving the stimuli, they react to the stimuli as well. They react to stimuli, right? So how do they react to stimuli? Through the conduction of impulses, or through conducting impulses. All right, impulses are the electrical signals, all right, which are sent, you know, they send to the different organs of the body, all right, which brings about the responses to the, all right, stimuli, right, dear students. Okay, so this is very necessary for us to understand. Okay, they receive the stimuli, and to that stimuli they also give response through the impulses, all right. And these tissues, dear students, are ectodermal in origin. See, they are formed, that means to say that they are formed from the ectodermal, means outside primary germ layer. Okay, the primary germ layer which is present outside, all right, from that these tissues are derived. I have already told you about this, that primary germ layers are formed in the embryonic stage itself, which help in the formation of different tissues and organs of our body, right? So we have discussed about all the other, right, which are formed from you know, connective tissues. For example, I had told you that they are formed from the mesoderm, that is the middle layer, and we had discussed, for example, epidermal tissues. I had told you that they are formed from the all three layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. So this, for example, now let us talk about nervous tissue. They are formed only from the outside layer, that is called as ectoderm, outside primary germ layer. Remember this point. Students, this nervous tissue is made up of 4 types of cells. The nervous tissues have 4 types of cells. Firstly and most importantly, the neurons, alright, followed by the second, that is neuroglia, alright. Then ependymal cells are the 4th type of cells, okay. Then the third type of cells are ependymal cells, and then we have the last, that is neurosecretory cells. Let me repeat, okay. They have neurons, neuroglia, ependymal cells as well as neurosecretory cells. Dear students, next let us discuss about the structure of multipolar neuron, okay. I will tell you how the structure looks here. See, there is a prominent nucleus. Inside the nucleus we can also find the nucleolus, all right. See, then all right, the structure. See, these structures are called as dendrites, all right. And then here, this is the structure called axon, okay. See, axon is covered by a myelin sheath. This is a myelinated neuron, so it will have myelin sheath. This is the myelin sheath and this is the axon, all right. Then dear students, further the axon leads to the structures called all right, smaller structures, right, called the synaptic knobs, we generally say, okay. These are synaptic knobs, all right. Fine. So this is the nucleus, okay. Then there are certain granules which can be present in the cytoplasm of this neuron. These are called as the Nissl granules. Nissl granules we say, okay. See, now let us see the structure here. When you consider this part, all right, this part is called as the cyton. We call that as cyton or the cell body of the neuron, all right. This cell body of the neuron, all right, is the important part, okay. Apart from the cyton, there are 2 processes. These processes which arise from the cyton are called dendrites, which I have already told you. That's one important process of the neuron. Structure which arises from the cyton is called dendrites. And then further we have one more structure arising from the cyton or the cell body called as axon, okay. Remember, axon and the dendrites are called as the cell processes, all right. Let me explain you the other structural aspects here. See, the cyton or the cell body of the neuron which we were talking about in the structure, all right, this can be very prominently seen occurring in gray matter of central nervous system, okay. in the gray matter of central nervous system, we can find the neurons having the cell body. This is one point. And further, when we consider the diameter of these cytons, it may range between 4 to 100 micrometers. All right, 4 to 100 micrometers. All right, and their shape, the cyton can be either, see, when I represented the diagram, see, I had shown you that it was something like this, rounded, correct? It was arising from which were arising the dendrites, right? So this was oval, right? The shape of the cyton can be either oval or rather round, okay, or either it can be pyramidal as well, right, students? Okay, so this you please do remember. So the shape is oval, rounded or pyramidal. Then let me tell you that, as I said you, this large nucleus, which we can find here, inside the nucleus there is the presence of nucleolus. All right. So furthermore, see, in the cytoplasm of this, or the cyton, what we have, in the cyton we can find many cellular organelles like mitochondria can be present in the neuron's cytoplasm. Okay, then even Golgi bodies are also very prominently seen here. To go with that, endoplasmic reticulum is seen, ribosomes, lysosomes are seen, right? Even we can find fat globules inside the cell body, okay, and some pigmented granules also we can find. So these are the important cellular organelles which we can find other than the nucleus. Okay, then furthermore we have here, see, Nissle's bodies. I told you, Nissle bodies. See, these Nissle bodies are, almost we can find in most of the neurons. Okay, and their shapes are they also are of very different shapes. Okay, they actually, when we observe under the electron microscope, these Nissle granules look like a mass of masses of ribosomes, how we actually see in the cell, like that they look inside the cyton, or rather rough endoplasmic reticulum, how it looks that way. All right, these Nissle bodies look, under the electron microscope. All right, dear students, let me tell you that the neurons have two nerve processes. Okay, other than that, two nerve processes which I have already represented in the diagram. So let me just represent here. See again. So here these are dendrites, right? Okay, then this is the axon. All right, it is covered by the myelin sheath, right? See, these dendrites are the first nerve processes which arise from the body of the neuron called as cyton. Okay, now if I want to tell you about the dendrites or dendrons, also we can represent them as dendrons. They are extensions which arise from the cyton, or we can also represent as neuron. They are much shorter than the axons. See, axons are very long, they will be, but these dendrites are very short. All right, they are afferent in nature. When we consider these dendrites, they are afferent in nature. What do we mean by afferent, dear students? Afferent means they conduct the nerve impulses towards the cell body. See, towards the cell body the nerve impulses come like this. Okay, so that's why that we use the term afferent. Afferent here represents what? The nerve impulses towards the cell body, right? So this is very important, dear students. Then further we have the axon as well, right? See, the axon, okay, these are dendrites, okay, just a rough structure. Okay, then this axon, okay, as we can observe here, all right, is very important. Again, second important process. Axon is the second process of the neuron. We represent it to as, right? It also arises from the cyton. It also arises from the body of the neuron called as cyton. It is the longest process among the two. See, dendrites were, as I said, you were very short, but this is very long. And let me tell you, it further it has the slender, what I can say, the branches called as telodendrites. These are called telodendrites. Okay, these telodendrites, the smaller branches which arise from the axon, at the tip they have knob like structures. Okay, we can directly represent them to as synaptic knobs, which I represented before. They can be called to as synaptic knobs, all right, or we can also call them to as end bulbs. We can also call them as end bulbs or terminals also, we can tell them. And dear students, the axons are covered by a membrane called axolemma. Right, the neuron is covered by a membrane called neurolemma. So axons are covered by axolemma, and the cytoplasm of the cytoplasm of axon is represented as axoplasm, dear students. Okay, so fine. So these are the few important structural aspects you can remember. Students, structurally the neurons can be classified into three types. Okay, based on structure, first let us discuss. We have first unipolar neuron. Okay, so what do we mean by unipolar neuron here? See, here unipolar neurons are the one where only one nerve process, only one nerve process, okay, can be seen arising from the cell body. Very important point. Only one nerve process, either the axon or dendrite will arise, not both. Okay, so generally, for example, if axon is present, there will be no dendrites, right? If that is the case, we call that as unipolar neuron. This unipolar neuron, for example, can be seen in the ganglia of spinal nerves. In our spinal nerves, the ganglial cells are present, so there we can find this, or even in the cranial nerves. Say for example, in certain pharynx region, or pharynx cranial nerves, as well as in the ganglia of spinal nerves, we can find these unipolar neurons. Okay, then secondly, let us discuss about the bipolar neuron. Second type, this is based on structure. Second type is bipolar neurons. From the word itself you can understand. All right, bipolar here represents what? The cyton gives rise to two nerve processes. Only two nerve processes arise from the cyton or the cell body. That condition is called as what? The bipolar neurons. So let us say, for example, an axon will be formed at one end and the dendrite will be formed at the other end. Alright, if this is the case, we call this to as the bipolar neurons. So where do we find in our body these type of bipolar neurons? Let us say, for example, in the retina of our eye we can find the bipolar neurons. Also in the olfactory epithelium. See, olfactory epithelium is present where? In the nasal chamber, lining the nasal chamber we can find this. Okay, so here as well we can find the bipolar neurons. Okay, these are the two major regions, retina of eye and olfactory epithelium of nasal chamber. We can find the bipolar neurons. And dear students, structurally the third type of neuron we have is multipolar neuron. Multipolar neurons. Here we can say from the site on, all right, not one, not two, all right, many nerve processes will arise. If they arise, many arises, then we call that as what? The multipolar neurons. All right. For example, if one axon arises from one part of the cyton and many dendrons will arise. Okay, as we discussed the structure now before, that was a multipolar neuron which can be present in the generally gray matter of brain or central nervous system. All right, gray matter of central nervous system or brain. Okay, as well as the gray matter of next we have the ganglia of autonomic nervous system. Also we can find the multipolar neurons. All right, these are few important aspects you need to remember with respect to the types of neurons based on structure. Finally, let us discuss about the functions of the nervous tissue. All right, functions of nervous tissue. First function is that, as I already told you, nervous systems have the ability to receive the stimuli either inside the body or from the environment. All right, and after receiving it, this they can give, all right, the coordinated response for the same. They produce the response through the generation of impulses, dear students. Okay, and see, these the type of neurons called sensory neurons which we discussed, all right, which are also called as afferent neurons. All right, it can also be called as afferent neurons. These conduct nerve impulses from the sense organs. They conduct nerve impulses from the sense organs to the receptors of central nervous system, receptors of CNS, central nervous system. That means message is carried from the sense organs to the central nervous system through sensory neurons. All right. Then let me tell you, we also have motor neurons. Okay, type of neurons called motor neurons, which are also called to as the efferent neurons. All right. These motor or efferent neurons, they transmit impulses from the central nervous system to the muscles. When this happens, all right, then we can see the contraction of muscles, dear students. All right. So anyway, other than that, they have also the ability, efferent neurons also have the ability to transmit the impulses to involuntary muscles and glands as well. Okay, to the involuntary glands and involuntary muscles also to certain extent. These motor or efferent neurons transmit the impulses. So this is it about the today's class. Thank you very much.